What are the dimensions of this piece?
It's 12 inches high by 36 inches wide. I recently went to that format. This is the first painting I've done in that format, and it goes to my sense and my experience of the Texas landscape, which is big sky. And especially when you go out toward West Texas, it just opens up. And the emphasis, the low horizon, and emphasis on the clouds, the kind of hard scrabble trees that are there are just very indicative of the landscapes that I grew up with.
With your paintings, are you generally, while this is a more horizontal, a panoramic look at the area, do you have a kind of a standard dimensions that you work in?
Yes, for the most part, and this is a slight departure from that. I'm trying to, so that my work look cohesive as a group, I tried to have the dimensions of 24 inches by something, like 24 by 24, 24 by 36, so that when they're shown together, they look cohesive. Of course, this is a divider of that. It's 12 by 36. So I think it will still work because I plan to do more in this format.
So this one is, and where is it exactly?
Oh, the location of the
Yeah.
landscape, it's in Hunt County, which is it's where the Texas Hill Country starts meeting the West Texas, where it flattens out and where you're moving toward the rugged Big Bend area between those two places.
And I've lived in Texas and I've traveled a bit in Texas. This is so your color selection. And first of all, I find that the richness of your colors, the saturation, to me always is attracts me, draws me in. How how realistic of the colors in that area is your palette in this painting?
Oh, I'd say it's close. I do tend to punch up the colors from reality. The foreground may have been not quite so saturated, maybe not quite so yellow and orange. The trees, I'd say, were a little more subdued. But yeah, I do take it a step beyond what my eyes are seeing in the actual landscape. But that's the fun of art, is having express how you feel about something rather than what it maybe looks like in reality.
So when you talk about express how you feel about something, is there an intent or is there an emotional experience that you had that you were communicating?
Oh, I think I grew up on a farm in Central Texas, so I have lots of memories and influence from being outdoors and seeing the sunset, seeing the big sky, that sort of thing. And I think it's just a matter of the color helping me put more emotion into the painting than it would have if I were being photorealistic.
Is this somewhat nostalgic for you when you go out and do this type of work?
I think nostalgia probably influences a lot of my paintings. I don't know why. I think nostalgia it can be negative, but in many ways, it's a very positive emotion. It's something that I want the viewer to experience when they see it. I want it to be relatable.
So I have to ask the question, the symbolism or the large rabbit
Yeah, it's a jackrabbit. The name of this painting is Jackarama,
of the
portmanteau of the jackrabbit and the panorama. I grew up, I saw jackrabbits all the time on the farm, and you'd see them in the distance leaping and just being jackrabbits. Uh, I live in the city, though. I've lived here for many years, and I realized that I've lost that experience. And this is a way. I think it works on several levels. One is it's about the jackrabbit and how I don't see them anymore, so they've faded from my memory a little bit. But I think in a larger sense, it's about anything that we have lost or might fear losing.
Very nice. And with we talked a little bit about the color, and then you also made a comment about the proportion of the sky and what it plays here. Is there is it a strictly a design criteria, or is there something more to the composition?
I wanted that sense of being in the wide open spaces, and when you're there, it's all about the sky. And you see these clouds kind of dance in rows across the horizon when you're out there. I think it's just a matter of wanting people to feel like they're there.
And so you border on abstraction in how you approach some of your work. And I think this is what I'm seeing with the lines of color, horizontal and vertical, is something that I think I've seen in other works that you've done.
I have done that a lot. Yes, I do it in just about everything.
And what is that about?
Uh, I love painting representationally, but I feel like if I leave it at that, it's just the same as anybody what anybody else would do. It's very intentional and very much a way to keep the painting from just feeling cut and dried. It adds emotional content to it. It adds a signature that's mine.
Obviously, I've picked up on it.
Yes, you did.
Clean it. And oil painting for this? Acrylic. And do you tend to mainly work in acrylic?
It's my main medium. Occasionally, I will include some collage elements on a limited basis. I may do a print, a jelly print or something of a photograph and insert that into the painting, but it's very limited. So it's mostly acrylic. I do work in other mediums from time to time, but it's more to take a break and just try something new for a while.
So with this work, where is it?
The location is
Yes.
that it depicts is a park just a couple miles from my house. I travel, I try to get images of different parts of the state, but every once in a while I do something that's just purely local. And it was a little creek that runs through a park, and I was compelled to paint the way the reflections were displaying in the water, the patterns of the reflections and the pattern of the rock, and the title of this is Full Immersion,
Hmm.
and I feel like it's something that you can just dive into. It's like being in nature and being enveloped by nature.
Do you mainly do some little tricks and do like photographic tricks and then take from your photos
Yeah,
for your
my
creation?
yeah, my acrylic paintings are often I use photographic references quite mostly for those. I do I have developed a pretty passionate sketchbook practice where I do go out and use a sketchbook to make drawings live in real time. So
Like you're doing sketching, is that more often than not what you like to do is sketch it and feel it that way?
oh, yeah, and actually sketching has become a thing unto itself for me. Yes, sometimes it's just an opportunity to make a quick take down a quick impression of what's in front of me, but it's become its own thing, and I'm filling sketchbooks these days, just sketches from daily life, sketches. I took a trip to the Kimball Museum yesterday and sketched some of the sculptures that were on display there. It's just a way to exercise my art muscles and have a documentation of what I've done.
That sounds cool. That sounds great. I noticed that, and it's interesting to me because I'm not doing so much with my own art right now, but there is the pleasure that one gets from just making lines on paper.
Fabulous.
Do you do like colored pencils, or what medium do you use when you're sketching?
I've experimented with a number of different ones, but what kind of has taken hold in the past couple months is ink drawing with spot color in watercolor.
Ooh,
And I'm really loving that. It's just leaving a lot of white space, but using some spot color to pump up the energy of the work. It's really fun.
I was gonna say, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I've used watercolor pencils, I've used crayons, usually with ink. I usually have ink with something. What else have I done? I like every once in a while, I like using just grayscale markers, the brush tip markers that have the range of values, and just use that, especially if it's a really complicated scene, 5 people, 5
Right.
people in a room or something like that. Yeah.
Right. Do you
So I'll
use,
just u
do you use like a quill tip pen?
I don't, but I recently purchased a Fude pen.
A what?
It's FUDE. It's just part of what I've learned gradually as I've gotten more and more into sketching. It's a fountain pen where the nib is bent
Mm,
and you change the width of your line by the angle that you're holding the pen. So
interest
if you hold it straight up, you get a finer line. If you hold it more at an angle, it's a thicker line. So you
int
can get some real expressive stuff that way.
Do you find the other part about a pen is, uh, it forces an artist to, be confident in their coordination with their hand. In other words, you can't mess around with it like you can with other medium, right?
You don't erase it.
Yeah, but I think there's something really do you see some of these things as kind of part of a constant skill, craft development?
Oh, yes, definitely. If you have a daily sketching practice, you can't help but improve your skills. You know, a lot of people would like to draw, but they think they can't. And I got tired of hearing that from people. So I'm starting a class in a couple weeks for people who think they can't draw. And the name of the course is Anyone Can Draw. Because I would, even if you don't plan to display your work anywhere, going back to the mental health part of this, it's a great way to relieve tension and to get into a meditative mode. And I'd like for other people to experience that.
Wonderful. I love it. So let's talk a little bit. This one is reflection. What inspiration? What was going on?
Oh, uh, just I love the upside down trees. They're upside down in the water because they're reflected that way. Uh, that probably was the first thing that attracted me. Um, I enjoyed how the rocks on the other side of the stream were cooler, and the rocks that were close to me were warm. Um, the patterns of reflection of the leaves in the water, random. There's a little impressionistic feel to some of that. So it was a pleasure to paint.
And it's such a I'm always drawn to your the richness of your colors. Is there in geographic or not geographic, geologically, what kind of rock do you have any idea what the do you have sandstone or that type of rock in the area?
It's probably not sandstone. It's probably limestone, which would
Mm.
be whiter. It's just a matter of me playing with reality and not sticking too close to what my eyes see, but what I want to see.
Yeah, and you do punch up the colors, and it lends itself to the beautiful composition. So when you're looking at landscapes and you're creating for a show, are you trying to show in appreciation of the beauty of where you live?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think it's part of the if you wanna call it an agenda, it's not really an agenda, but just a purpose, is to help people see the beauty wherever they are. You can see it all around you, but if you don't learn how to see, sometimes an artist has to show people how to see.
Now that's an when you say is so as an artist, what is it like when you're creating? And you just made an interesting statement that you're trying to spark within your viewers, hey, this you can see something more than maybe what you think you're seeing. Is that part of your thing?
Yeah, I think that'll be a lot of what that class I was talking about will be is learning how to see what you really see, not what you think you see. A lot of my motivation is to provide people with an engaging and deeply moving experience. Not everybody is going to have a deeply moving experience when they look at this, but there may be some people who do. Wow, I feel like I am fully immersed in this scene.
Do
So,
you now that we're back in people being more normal for the last year or more in getting out and doing things like galleries and all of that, do you like to hang out and interact with people as they are looking at your art? Do you do that?
I do if I can, yes. Yes. If somebody's got questions about the art or just want to know the artist, yeah, I enjoy that. I'm I consider myself an ambivert. I'm perfectly fine being alone in my studio for days at a time, but I also enjoy and get energized by being around people. So I would never call myself an extrovert, but I'm somewhere in between extrovert and introvert. I think you've seen this. I think I've posted it on the platform.
So
Yeah.
this one is really grabs you. It is so tell me a little bit about how did this happen?
Okay. I was with my grandkids at the community swimming pool last summer, and I had gone over to our blanket and picked up something when I saw this woman sitting on the ground. I think she was maybe putting sunscreen on herself or something. And it was just amazing to me that her swimsuit was the same color as the grass around. And she took on a Mother Nature feeling for me, that the color being the color of nature. Uh, so that's where I headed in my thinking was she was in harmony with nature because of the green swimsuit and the green grass around. I totally eliminated any background of the swimming pool. I changed the color of the blanket to just because green and red, but I loved the way the light hit her and modeled her form. I liked the fact that she wasn't this skinny bathing beauty. She just had this solid feel to her. The gesture of her body, the way her head was turned. It was just everything about it just said, "I've got to paint this."
And so speaking of sketching and photographs, how did you capture this moment?
I did use, a photograph for that one. I managed to get several pictures.
So you just
I
kind
snuck Yes. I don't know if she would recognize herself if she saw this, but I would thank her for being there.
yeah. So it was so the point of inspiration then so you're just out enjoying your time there, and then the whole thing with the colors is what got your attention?
Yes, definitely.
And when you talk about so much today is about trying to get away from stereotypical bodies and everything else. And so was that part of it? Was like, okay, this is just like everything about. I just want to make this a realistic representation of this person.
Yeah, I guess I just saw the beauty in it. I saw the beauty in everything about their gesture and the way the light hit her body just drew me in.
When you're doing your work, do you ever work in series where you start and you go, I'm going to keep developing. I really like this type of thing. Do you do that in your creative work?
I'd love to do a series. I have done a couple major series. In 2020, it didn't actually reach the public eye until 2021, I believe. But I was from 2019 to 2020, I was working on a series of portraits of people who had recently been homeless. I did 26 of those, and then I did one more, a larger piece as an anchor piece. The partnered with a local agency, and we treated it as an awareness raising event and fundraising. That series, I totally love that series. It was I interviewed each person whose portrait I did, talked to them. I took photographs, a number of photographs after the interview, and then I came back to the studio and I did the portrait in studio, and then I wrote their story as much in their voice as I could. When the when the exhibit came about, each 12 by 12 portrait was next to that person's story.
So when you say you like doing the series, I've just been writing a couple articles about the process of getting into a flow and keeping your create. So does a series like creating that, does that give you another kind of level of energy and excitement about what you're trying to do?
Oh, yeah, it does. It's like you're really going deep into one subject, uh, especially like when I thought about the stories of each of the people that I painted. There was a thread of commonality through their stories, but there were also differences. Everyone was unique. There were all sorts of reasons for being homeless. And it definitely reached my heart in terms of understanding a little bit more about what it's like to be homeless and how it happens. Yeah. And I did a series also, which never went anywhere. I still have it here, but it was portraits of African Americans who had been killed in police custody.
Mm.
So I did a number of those, and it was like learning their stories and learning what had happened to them.